Welcome back to Think and Speak podcast. Today's episode is designed to do more than improve your English. It's here to upgrade the way you think, express ideas, and approach challenges. Daniel, many people study English for years, yet their mindset stays the same. Why do you think language and mindset are so closely connected?
Because language is not just a communication tool. It's a thinking tool. The words you choose shape how you see problems, opportunities, and even yourself.
That's exactly what today's conversation is about. We're going to explore modern English through meaningful dialogue. How confident speakers use grammar, structure, and phrases to think more clearly and speak with impact.
This episode is for learners who want more than correct sentences. It's for those who want clarity, confidence, and growth through conversation.
Before we begin, make sure you like this video and leave a comment below. Tell us, what mindset shift do you want to make through English?
Your interaction helps this channel reach more learners who want real progress. Now, let's start upgrading your mindset, one conversation at a time.
Daniel, let's begin with the core idea. When we say English conversations that upgrade your mindset, what does that actually mean? How can everyday conversations in English change the way learners think, make decisions, and view themselves, instead of just improving vocabulary or grammar?
Upgrading your mindset through English means using language as a tool for clearer thinking, not just communication. Many learners focus on accuracy, grammar rules, verb tenses, and vocabulary lists, but mindset growth happens when learners understand how language organizes thought. Let's start with sentence structure. Simple sentences like, I fail a lot, use the present simple tense to describe a repeated action, but they also quietly define identity. A mindset upgrading alternative is, I am learning from my mistakes. This uses the present continuous tense, which emphasizes process and development rather than fixed failure. Conversations that upgrade mindset often use cause and effect structures. For example, if I practice consistently, I improve steadily. This is a first conditional sentence, commonly used to express realistic results. It trains the brain to connect effort with outcome. Another key feature is perspective language. Compare. This is hard. This is challenging, but manageable. The second sentence uses a contrast conjunction, but, which reframes difficulty without denying it. This small grammatical shift strengthens resilience. Modern conversations also rely on modal verbs such as can, might, and will. Saying, I can improve, opens possibility, while I will improve if I stay consistent, expresses commitment. Modal verbs are essential for expressing mindset because they reflect attitude, not just action. Examples play a major role. Instead of abstract statements like, mindset matters, effective speakers say, for example, when I changed how I spoke to myself, my performance improved. This uses a time clause and past simple tense to show real experience. Finally, upgraded conversations include reflection phrases such as, what I realized is, or what changed my thinking was. These reporting structures encourage awareness and growth. In short, English conversations upgrade mindset when they move from labels to processes, from excuses to structures, and from vague thoughts to clear, intentional language.
That's powerful, Daniel. Many learners say they understand positive thinking, but under pressure, their language becomes negative and limiting. How can learners consciously use grammar, phrases, and sentence patterns to shift from negative thinking to constructive thinking during real conversations?
Negative thinking often appears automatically, especially under stress. Linguistically, it shows up through absolute language and fixed statements. Learners say things like, I always mess up, I can't speak well, or I'm bad at English. These sentences use adverbs like always and never, which close the door to improvement. Constructive thinking begins with softening language. For example, replacing, I can't explain this, with, I'm having difficulty explaining this right now, introduces a time expression, right now, which makes the problem temporary. This shift reduces pressure and increases confidence. Grammar also helps through progressive tenses. Saying, I'm improving my speaking skills, uses the present continuous tense to emphasize ongoing effort. This is psychologically more supportive than the present simple, I speak badly, which sounds permanent. Another effective strategy is using repair phrases. Native speakers frequently say, let me rephrase that, or, what I mean is. These phrases signal control and intelligence, not weakness. They keep conversations flowing even when mistakes happen. Constructive thinkers also rely on comparison structures. Saying, "I'm more confident than I was last year," uses a comparative adjective, which highlights growth. Comparatives naturally encourage reflection and motivation. Vocabulary choice matters as well. Replacing nouns like failure with feedback or problem with challenge is an example of semantic reframing. This doesn't ignore reality, it changes interpretation. Conditional sentences are especially useful. For instance, if I prepare well, I feel more confident. This zero-conditional structure creates a rule in the brain, turning confidence into a habit. Finally, constructive language includes solution-oriented phrases such as, "What I can do is," "A better approach might be," or "The next step is." These phrases move thinking forward instead of backward. By consciously choosing flexible grammar, supportive vocabulary, and reflective structures, learners can transform negative inner dialogue into constructive conversation, and that transformation directly upgrades mindset.
Let's look at daily practice, Daniel. For learners who want their English conversations to consistently upgrade their mindset, what daily speaking and thinking habits would you recommend so that growth becomes natural and long-lasting?
Daily habits are where mindset and language truly merge. One of the most effective habits is daily verbal reflection. Speaking out loud for a few minutes about your day using the past simple or present perfect tense builds awareness. For example, "Today, I stayed focused longer," or "I have handled challenges more calmly this week." These structures reinforce progress. Another habit is intentional goal-setting language. Each morning, learners can state one clear intention using the future tense, "I will focus on clarity today," or "I am going to speak confidently in meetings." Future forms create direction and purpose. Sentence upgrading is also essential. Instead of basic sentences like, "I studied English," learners should add detail using adverbs or relative clauses. "I studied English consistently, which helped my listening skills." This improves both fluency and analytical thinking. Listening habits matter too. After listening to a podcast or conversation, learners should summarize using reporting phrases such as, "The key idea was," or "What stood out to me was." These phrases strengthen comprehension and articulation. Another powerful habit is identity-based language. Saying, "I am a learner who shows up daily," uses a defining relative clause that reinforces self-image. Identity statements influence behavior more strongly than motivation alone. Mistake management is also crucial. Using phrases like, "That didn't come out clearly, so I'll try again," connects error and solution with the conjunction "so." This prevents discouragement. Finally, patience must be built into daily language. Using adverbs like gradually, steadily, and over time reflects realistic expectations and reduces frustration. When learners practice English daily with intention, structure, and reflection, conversations stop being exercises and become tools for growth. That is how English doesn't just improve communication, it upgrades mindset.
Daniel, many learners improve their English technically, but emotionally they still feel insecure when speaking. They hesitate, overthink, and fear judgment, even when they know the right words. How can English conversations help learners build emotional strength and self-trust, not just linguistic ability?
This is a very important issue because emotional confidence often limits learners more than grammar mistakes. Emotional strength in English comes from trusting your ability to communicate meaning, not from producing perfect sentences. In language, insecurity often appears through hesitation. Phrases like "maybe," "I think," or "I'm not sure," used excessively. These phrases are not wrong grammatically, but overuse signals doubt. Emotionally strong speakers balance them with assertive structures such as, "What I've learned is," "My experience shows that," or "I'm confident that." These declarative sentences strengthen self-trust. Grammar also supports emotional strength through clarity. When learners use clear sentence patterns, subject plus strong verb plus clear object, they feel more in control. Compare. "Something about this is confusing." "This concept confuses me." The second sentence uses an active verb and a clear subject-object relationship, which psychologically feels stronger. Another powerful tool is narrative language. When learners describe personal experiences using the past simple or past continuous tense, "I struggled at first, but I kept practicing," they create a story of resilience. The conjunction but plays a key role here by signaling growth after difficulty. Emotional strength also comes from normalizing difficulty. Using phrases like, "It's normal to feel nervous," or "Many learners experience this stage," uses general statements that reduce personal pressure. These structures remove isolation and self-blame. Repair strategies are especially important emotionally. Saying, "Let me try that again," or "I'll explain it differently," shows calm control. These phrases are examples of conversational management, and they transform mistakes into moments of leadership rather than embarrassment. Another important shift involves adjectives. Instead of labeling yourself with fixed adjectives like bad or weak, emotionally strong learners use process-based descriptions: in progress, developing, or improving. These adjectives align with a growth mindset. Finally, repetition builds trust. Each successful interaction, no matter how small, becomes evidence. Using reflective sentences like, "I handled that conversation well," reinforces positive self-evaluation. When English conversations focus on meaning, clarity, and self-expression rather than perfection, learners develop emotional strength. That strength becomes the foundation of confident, natural communication.
Daniel, let's talk about influence. Many people want to use English to inspire, lead, or positively influence others. How can English conversations be structured to sound persuasive, thoughtful, and inspiring, while still remaining natural and authentic?
Influence in English does not come from sounding impressive. It comes from sounding clear, intentional, and relatable. Persuasive speakers organize their thoughts logically and guide listeners step by step. Grammatically, this means using structured progression. One of the most effective tools is signposting language. Phrases like, "First, let's look at," "Another important point is," and "to sum up," help listeners follow ideas easily. These discourse markers create trust because the listener knows where the conversation is going. Persuasive conversations also rely heavily on cause and effect structures. For example, when people focus consistently, they build confidence. This zero-conditional sentence presents an idea as a general truth, which is very powerful in motivational and leadership contexts. Another key element is balanced tone. Instead of extreme claims like, "This will change everything," effective speakers use modal verbs and hedging phrases, "This can make a real difference," or "This approach tends to work well." These structures sound intelligent and realistic. Examples are essential. Abstract ideas become inspiring only when grounded in reality. Phrases like, for example, "in my experience," or "I've seen this happen when," introduce real-life evidence. Using the present perfect tense, "I've seen people grow rapidly," connects experience to the present moment. Storytelling also plays a major role. Using narrative sequences with past tenses allows speakers to build emotional connection. At first, the challenge felt overwhelming. Over time, however, progress became visible. The adverb, however, signals transformation and hope. Authenticity comes from inclusive language. Using pronouns like we and us, "We all face challenges," "We can improve together," creates connection and shared responsibility. Finally, inspiring speakers end with forward-looking language. Sentences like, "The next step is," or "What matters now is," use future-oriented focus without pressure. When learners combine structure, examples, balanced grammar, and authentic tone, their English conversations become influential. They don't just communicate ideas, they move people.
Daniel, many English learners say they can understand conversations, but when it's their turn to speak, their mind goes blank. They know ideas in their native language, but they struggle to organize thoughts clearly in English. How can English conversations train learners to think more clearly, structure ideas faster, and respond with confidence in real time?
This challenge is extremely common, and it highlights the difference between passive knowledge and active thinking. Understanding English is a receptive skill, while speaking requires organization, decision-making, and speed. To upgrade mindset, learners must train their thinking patterns, not just vocabulary. One of the most effective strategies is learning thinking frameworks. For example, confident speakers often use simple structures such as opinion, reason, example, situation, problem, solution. Grammatically, this encourages the use of linking words like because, so, for example, and as a result. These connectors act as mental bridges, helping ideas flow naturally. When learners freeze, it's often because they search for perfect sentences. This creates cognitive overload. Strong speakers instead rely on starter phrases such as, "what I think is," "from my point of view," or "one reason is." These phrases buy time and create structure while the brain organizes content. Verb tense choice also matters. Using the present simple for general ideas, I believe focus is essential, reduces complexity. Learners don't need advanced tenses to sound intelligent, they need clarity. Another powerful habit is verbal outlining. Before responding, confident speakers silently plan one sentence ahead. This mirrors good writing habits. For example, I'll state my opinion, then add one example. This reduces panic and increases control. Thinking clearly also improves through paraphrasing. When learners can restate an idea using phrases like, "in other words," or "what I'm trying to say is," they gain flexibility and confidence. These phrases are examples of reformulation language, essential in real conversations. Daily speaking practice should focus on idea clarity, not speed. Recording short responses and listening back helps learners notice unnecessary hesitation and vague language. Finally, mindset matters. Learners must accept pauses as normal. Using fillers like, "well," or "let me think for a second," sounds natural and professional. Silence is not failure. It is processing. When learners train their brains to structure ideas simply and clearly, speaking stops being stressful. English conversations become a tool for thinking, not a test, and that shift upgrades both fluency and confidence.
Daniel, for our final question, let's talk about long-term transformation. Many learners start strong but lose momentum after a few weeks or months. How can English conversations be used consistently to create lasting mindset change, so that growth continues even without constant motivation?
Lasting mindset change happens when English becomes part of daily identity, not a temporary project. Consistency comes from integration, not intensity. Learners who grow long-term stop asking, "Am I motivated?" and start asking, "What is my system?" Language plays a central role in this shift. Long-term learners use habit-based language such as, "I practice every morning," or "I reflect at the end of the day." These sentences use the present simple tense to describe routine, which reinforces stability and identity. English conversations support consistency when they include reflection and adjustment. Saying, "This week was difficult, but I stayed consistent," uses contrast conjunctions to acknowledge struggle without quitting. This balance prevents burnout. Another key habit is weekly review conversations, even if spoken alone. Using reporting phrases like, "What worked this week was," or "One thing I'll improve next week is," trains strategic thinking. These structures are common in professional environments and strengthen discipline. Learners should also use evidence-based language. Instead of emotional judgments like, "I'm not improving," disciplined speakers say, "I spoke for 5 minutes without stopping today." Numbers and specifics reduce doubt and build confidence. Identity reinforcement is crucial. Statements like, "I'm someone who learns through conversation," or "I grow through daily practice," use defining relative clauses that strengthen self-image. When identity is clear, quitting feels inconsistent with who you are. Another powerful tool is future continuity language. Phrases like, "I'll keep building this skill over time," or "this is a long-term process," use future forms and time adverbs that normalize slow progress. Finally, long-term thinkers accept imperfect days. Using phrases like, "I didn't do much today, so I'll reset tomorrow," shows resilience. The conjunction "so" keeps the learner moving forward. When English conversations are used for reflection, planning, and identity building, growth becomes automatic. Motivation may come and go, but a trained mindset, supported by intentional language, keeps progress alive.